Hello YouTube, this is Dakota from Bowtied Media, and today we've got a brand new installment of This Week in EDM, where we go over songs that came out, this week in EDM. As always, there's a link down below for the Spotify songs and Spotify playlist, and we've got a full dapper week, which means there's a song from every category this week in trash, bad, meh, good, and standout, and I must say there was also a lot of not great songs this week, so let's hop into it. Starting us off in the trash category is Major Lazer and M.I.A. with Where the Daddy. Genuinely one of the worst songs released in 2024, which is ironic because this is an older track that is just now being released. But nothing about the song is remotely enjoyable. M.I.A.'s vocals are dull and lifeless, and the beat sounds like a sample pack beat with nothing changed to it. And then the crying baby narrative fits, I guess, but does not need to exist, and even more so, let's not auto-tune a baby's cry. It's weird. All around garbage song. You'll be seeing this in my worst songs of the year list, guaranteed. Then we got Timmy, Trumpet, Marnik, Elephante, and Dissette with Sound of Da Police. This song is just straight trash. It's just over 2 minutes with barely 30 seconds of any real big movements to it. It's merely just trying to cash in on a popular song title and sample. This song should not exist, and the fact that 4 producers were on this track is a disgrace. Then we're going to move into the bad category with Armin van Buuren and W&W. Armin van Buuren needs to get out of this techno trend. Once an industry-leading producer, he's been phoning it in 2024 for quick and kind of easy tracks that'll likely hit good streaming numbers. This song has nothing new or intriguing and tries to play off some nostalgia bait and is just tonally quite messy. Then we got AMNES with Pulsion. I've been a huge AMNES fan and credit a lot of his production for its creativity, but this new tune is a bit of a disappointment as he embraces a pretty boring and short tech house track that sounds like 90% of other tech house songs out there right now. Then we got Laidback Luke and Roland with Praise to the Bass. The production on this tech house track is very minimalistic, but to the point where it's just not really doing anything. And my goodness, the vocals on this thing are horrible. They are poorly mixed and do not flow with the production at all. Then we got IVE and David Guetta with Supernova Love, the epitome of boring commercial pop music. There is no creative juices flowing anywhere. David Guetta's production is uninterested and bland, while IVE's vocals aren't saying anything provoking one way or another. Then we got Hardwell featuring Sarah De Warren with No Sleep. Pretty typical main stage sort of big room track with a simple melody and firm bass line. It's not a very creative track, and that's fine, but it's also not all that interesting for the festival crowd either, in my opinion. Then we've got SampliFire with Punch. Heavy Britum with this kind of classic 1-2 snare kick that I'm honestly, personally, never really been a fan of. I think the melody is repetitive on this one and not all that interesting. But again, when it comes to this kind of Britum sound, take my opinion with a grain of salt. I've typically never been a big fan of this. Then we got Elephante featuring Linney with Don't Turn Back, a stylistically interesting future bass cut, but one that really lacks in the mixing department. I like the ideas laid out on the track, but the execution was definitely lacking, and I'm primarily talking about the super weak snare and kick, which is sort of the backbone of most EDM tracks. Then we're moving into the meh category with Ganja White Knight and Boogie T's Burnin. I get the message of the lyricism and the narrative that we need to be better as a human race, but the vocals don't stylistically match the rest of the track in both the mixing and tone. Kind of an oddball track for me, holistically, that I feel more like I could maybe get behind in some times, and other times I'd never want to listen to it again. Kind of just a weird song. Then we got Nicky, Romero, Vikkstar, Alpharocks, and Oates with Where Do I Go? I'll give this track some credit for switching things up tonally in the grand scheme of techno, going for a light and nostalgic lead melody, but it just doesn't really do anything with it. It's got no identity whatsoever. Then we got Marshmello, TRICKSTAR, and Lil Jon with Bad Boys, an edgy trap song that reminds me a lot of the early Trap Nation days. Otherwise, it's a fine track that definitely feels short. But it's that final drop that does save this song for me, as it's got quite a bit of life to it that really just goes to show that if the song, and a lot of songs like this, had a final big third movement, it would be much stronger as a track and the opportunity to be a much greater track in general. We got Barely Alive featuring Skyel with If You Wanna. Very underwhelmed by this new single after almost a year of radio silence from the duo. The production is more or less an abrasive, bland dubstep, and when it's paired with that relatively short runtime and those harsh synths, this one just didn't really hit for me. Then we got Tiesto and Soki Siren with Tantalizing, a quick, generic commercial house track with a bit of reggaeton feel to it. Nothing earth-shattering for sure, but a nice tune that I wouldn't mind hearing on the radio. Then we got Excision and Dion Timmer with Daba 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 Daba. Quite the bizarre track in both its sound design and tone, and title I guess too, but the song is sort of just goes off for 2 minutes straight, and almost to the point where there's no really rest or reprieve, and even then the jittery lead wasn't overly impressive or interesting to me. I appreciate the almost kind of psytrance movement in that second kind of mid-drop there, but this whole song just didn't really feel like it was doing a whole ton. Then we got Matoma with Heaven in My Hands. Bit of a throwback track for Matoma with this new commercial house tune that's got a bit of a tropical flair to it. It's got vocals that feel like they'd fit on an Avicii track quite perfectly, I'd say. Otherwise, I think it's a fine tune. Then we got Whipped Cream with God is a Gentleman. The first real track of this new Caroline era for Whipped Cream is definitely a stylistic switch up for her from her regular production, and I'm still on the fence a little bit. It's got a nice kind of Latin vibe to it and then jumps into this glitchy techno final movement, which is fine, I guess. It's just kind of a weird track to me, honestly. It feels like it's being pulled in multiple directions tonally, and I didn't really know where it was trying to land. Then we got Slander and Fairlane with Heaven Feels Like. For such a big collab, I'm quite disappointed how generic this ended up with the kind of simple mellow-dub lyricism, song structure, and essentially copy-pasted drops. I do think it's on the kind of upper echelon of mellow-dub quality, but it's still just generic as the rest of the bunch. Then we've got Lazer featuring Rebmo with Died at the Party from the new Blue EP out now by Lazer. This is an odd release for Lazer as they kind of seemingly ditched their cruising indie style for a more party starter, and I'm not really sure it landed for me. The vocals felt strange and the production didn't have that clean Lazer feel to it, which I mean, I appreciate the mix up in style, but it's a little too far in the wrong direction. Then we're moving into the good category with Exod, Halion, and Chapter with In My Bones. Melodic dubstep that does run into a lot of the genre tropes, but also has a structure that lends itself to some mix-ups here and there. Probably one of the better kind of generic mellow dub tracks for me. Then we got Must Die with Selecta from the new Vampire Weapon Midnight LP. A wild dubstep track with dense production elements that really gives the track this feeling of compression, like it's constantly being squished, almost to the point where it's almost uneasy to listen to. But it's a step in the right direction after a slew of unremarkable releases from Must Die, and I have not checked out the whole record yet, but the songs that I have heard, I've been pretty good with. Then we got William Black, Elenium, and Alana Springsteen with My Own Advice, the Midnight Kids remix. The Nature of Hope remixes is out now, and honestly, I'm a big fan of this remix over the original. I think that constant synth in the background keeps the track more focused, and even heightens Alana's vocal performance. The original just kind of left so much room to wander, and I think this is a more streamlined, stronger approach to the track holistically. And we got BK and Tails with Hit My Line, a sweet and simple house tune that leans a little bit more into that garage territory. It's got a straightforward song structure which helps relate to the kind of cruising and easy listening tone of this track. Then we've got Nightmare with Torture, the Reaper remix from the new Unsound 2 remix package. Everything landed exactly how I expected as it would for this remix, and I was quite happy with it. Reaper's signature intense drum and bass just kind of works really great as a remix, and he's proven that it does time and time again. There's some more life and intensity on the original than on the original, I should say, and because it was a remix, it felt like it wasn't so much like the rest of Reaper's discography. Then we got Dyadic with Anything Could Happen, a fresh melodic rhythm track with drops that feel like they just kind of go on forever. The second drop has a nice syncopated rhythm as the whole track keeps itself fairly tame. I do think the mixing is a little rough around the edges, but it's typical of Dyadic and adds to the kind of charm sometimes for me, and a feeling that I actually honestly resonate with and quite enjoy. We've got Mic Shift and Subcharge with One-Handed Slap, a grimy dubstep track with a unique sound design for sure. One of my favorite tracks from either of these producers, honestly, and I especially love the big mix-up from the first and second drop that even furthermore makes this a really fresh new track. Then we got Kid and Jonathan Medelson with Endless in Between. This feels like both a kind of throwback, more nostalgic track for me, and also reminds me a lot of a Cloudy Skies production. I haven't heard a Kid song like this before, and I'm really excited if there's more like this. Kid used to be one of my favorite producers, and this feels like a return to form for me. Then we got Bensley and Voicians with Letting Go. There is a certain charm to Bensley tracks that I just always tend to fall in love with. The melody is firm and catchy, and the whole track is incredibly clean. This is just pure, great drum and bass. And we got Cloud None Direct and Mr FijiWiji featuring Nina Sung with Feel This Way. Absolutely adore this. I love when all these guys get together for tracks, and I especially love when they tackle a more light-hearted garage sound. Nina Sung's vocals are great, and the track overall just exudes the sense of fun and carefreeness. And moving into the standout category, we've got Inzo and Immersive with Digital Night Drive. Really impressive track here with a stunning atmosphere. It's part natural, part alien-like, part digital, and continually playing around that lead melody. Super creative track with one of the best sound designed tracks of the year, I think, hands down. And finally, we've got deadmau5 with Re-Jaded. After 17 years, Jaded has received an unneeded but newly beloved re-edit of the golden oldie. The mixing is impeccable with its modern paint job, so much so that this might actually be one of his best mixes of all time maybe, especially this year. He's also maintained that iconic melody while adding a whole new round of additional movements, extending the track by 4 minutes, making for a total runtime of 12. Phenomenal work from Joel, as this really transported me back to a simpler time in EDM and felt very nostalgic for me. But that's been This Week in EDM. Let me know what you think of any and all songs in the comment section below. I'd love to hear what you have to say. But other than that, I'm Dakota from Bowtied Media, and I'll see you guys in another video.